Well, welcome back. Don't worry about that light. That's what happens when you're too tall for the place you live in. I hit my head on that thing probably 100 times, maybe even 1,000. But anyway, we had some decent news, and then I'm going to do a book review of Mr. Grove's book. It'll probably be today, but it won't come out today. We're going to stick to working events, and this is part two. Um, One of the things I didn't cover yesterday, and I've been kind of waiting today to do it, is footwear. If you're a boot guy, don't just rely on your boots. I've seen a lot of boot guys by this end of the second day or even the first day hardly be able to walk. Even with the right sock combination, you had heat, unique terrain, especially if you're walking. If you're on a cart, you can probably get away with it a little bit, but you really want to make sure your feet are taken care of. When you get to these facilities, if you can arrive the day before, do, especially so you can see it in the daytime. A lot of these companies will take little tours. At least you'll be able to see what's going on around you. That'll help make a better security person the day of the event. When it comes time to deployment, make sure you know exactly what it is you're supposed to be doing. Because what a lot of these guys do from these companies, that they'll just take people on carts and drop them off and tell them that they'll be back before the gates open, or they'll be back before people show up, and it's hardly ever the case, because a lot of those guys are just overwhelmed, and they don't know what to do. Especially some of the newer generation guys in companies. Um, they just don't know what to do. There may be one guy that has a sheet and knows what's going on, and the other ones are just dropping people off. But before you even get on that cart, I would make sure that you know exactly what it is you're supposed to be doing. It's going to help. And if you can get in writing, then that's even better. Take notes. I did. I still do. I still take notes. And who told me, and the time they told me. You need to get that all squared away. If you, like I said, if you can bring a bag with you to post, even if you're not a bag person, do it. Bring those extra socks, bring those different pair of shoes, bring those drinks, bring those snacks, because again, when it comes down to lunchtime, a lot of these guys won't pull their people, and they'll eat in place. You know what I mean? And when you're feeding, even if they're on point, if you're feeding 60 to 100 guys at 200 people, whatever the case may be, it's going to take a minute to do it all. So you want to make sure you're somewhat sufficient. You don't want to be out there, especially as you get older. I used just to live on these events, week gauntlets, 6 days, 7 days, whatever it be, 3 days, on just tobacco and caffeine. I did it for decades. But as I got older, I had to eat at some point. So, and it helps. So make sure you do that. Also, I know everybody likes these events to go and have fun, especially hang out with the people you work with, and that's great, because that it builds bonds. It grows as a team. The problem is that you have to be, know when to say when. You don't want to show up, to be the first line of defense, tickets, parking lots, or whatever, reeking of alcohol or weed. You don't, if you do that stuff, don't do it at these things, and most certainly don't do it, before you show up. It's just not going to work out, especially with alcohol, because everybody knows as soon as the sun comes up, everybody's going to know, and you're probably going to have a real bad day. So don't partake in those things. There'll be plenty of time after an event, to hang out with your friends, or do what it is that you do. And I'm not condoning any of these things, whatsoever. I'm just saying that I've been doing this a long time, and I know what people do. I've seen what people do. So you don't want to involve that stuff on site, because there's a lot of people, especially the people you work for, got a lot riding on this. And the last thing they need is unnecessary issues, and you being drunk out there or you reeking like alcohol is going to be an issue. I had it Electric Forest with a national company on one of the stages. Um, they were from out west, and the guy was so drunk. I mean, it wasn't. And the worst part about it is the stage we were at. On the outside the gate, there was a booth that runs a trail along the backside of Electric Forest, um, like to the campers and stuff, and a lot of the carts will use that way. He had his alcohol, Jack Daniels, in that booth. So, he would be hopping that fence, or he'd be going over the fence, or he would just stay in that fence line, going back and forth. And he was drunk for hours. Before we got there, they were having the company I was working for, um, was called in to help with the stage because they were losing control of, especially behind the stage. Um, and I can see why. I mean, this guy was even. I mean, it's cool to talk to people that attend those things and have fun and smile and giggle. But this guy was chasing them back and forth, and he was just rocked, and it got to the point where it was dangerous. And I said something to his supervisor, and she kind of just blew me off. And after an hour of covering what he was doing, and then doing what I'm supposed to be doing, they had these heavies, that travel with these event companies. A lot of them are independent companies. Sometimes they're hired by, their promotional company. But there's, you'll notice most of them got like black shirts. They wear like black shirts. Always the guys in the carts. Um, you don't generally see the head person. Well, you don't want to see the head person unless there's a problem. So you don't want to do that. But you generally see these guys. And finally, I had to say something to him that this is getting dangerous. It's going to be bad. And it was an older fella too, I mean, so I kind of felt, shouldn't, I guess I did feel a little bit bad for him, but he just shouldn't have been out there. And the people in this company most certainly should have been aware of this, and they weren't. So, you have to put your best face forward. You know what I mean? One of the keys that I always said, even in the malls or at these places, if you look like you have a purpose, you look like you're going somewhere, you look like you're doing something, nobody's going to accuse you of not. You know what I mean? Or slacking. Um, it's a fun event. It's fun events. I have fun at them. I'm a people watcher. I've gone to Cedar Point and sat the first couple hours just watching people. I just what I like to do. But even leading up to it, get in that, start eyeing people or watching people, because a lot of stuff can be prevented. If people are actually watching. Sometimes things get lost. Because there's so much going on. But if you could be perfect in your world, if you could be perfect in the area that you are in, that's contagious. Just like whining and crying is contagious, negativity is contagious. Winning is contagious too. So people will see that, and a lot of them will step. If they can, they're gonna step up. So and even if you do get the right equipment, be careful. Where you are. Be careful what you're doing. You don't want to be out there jumping golf carts. And again, I've been doing this a long time. I've seen what people do with golf carts. I've had some of my people take golf carts through swamps and all unnecessary stuff. No matter, have fun. And it's fun when you're not the one paying for it, but it's not very fun if you are the one paying for it. I think that's it for part 2. We'll talk a little bit more about what happens when you're deployed, your first night going into the second night. The biggest thing I can say is be as self-sufficient as you can. I know this guy Craig. that I brought into the business several years ago, and he's actually doing real well now. He works with a couple different companies, but he has a van, and he takes this van everywhere, and it's packed full. Every fridge, bed, anything that, and he was one of my guys too, initially. He's one of those guys that you can send him anywhere, and at least for the first week, he ain't gonna need nothing. Maybe even for the second week, he's not gonna need anything. And those guys are good to have. But most of these companies, they want you to have fun, but you have to do what you're supposed to do when you're there. That's important. And especially with hours, if you are out in the sun all day, don't try to take on more than you can't do, because the last thing that anybody needs is guards falling out, and it happens. It happens every year. Guards falling out from the sun, or didn't eat, or low blood sugar. A couple years ago, one passed away in a tent overnight. It was an older fella. So don't take on more than you can't do. Even if the people get mad, it's fine. Let them get mad. At least they know. But all right, we'll see you at part 3. Like I said, I'm going to do a review of Safe and Sound, which is Dick Grobe's book. Dick Grobe was Elvis Presley's head of security from 67 to 77. I think I'm going to do it today, but I don't know if it's going to come out today. But anyway, we'll see you on part 3.